Welcome back to the Arsenal Insider YouTube channel. I am Alfie Cairns Culshaw, and I'm joined once again by Rosie Tupple from Arsenal Insider. How are you doing, Rosie?
All good. Can't wait for the football to be back, the proper football, anyway.
Same. It's been not the most exciting international break, but there is some interesting stuff to talk about, which we will do. Some of the Arsenal stars doing very well. But yeah, finally, Premier League football is back with Nottingham Forest heading to the Emirates this Saturday. Lunchtime kickoff after the international break. It's never ideal with, the likes of Hincapié, Gabriel Martinelli, all flying back from South America, like probably today with a game, or maybe it was yesterday, with a game coming up, in a matter of hours. But yeah, some interesting performances to talk about. And I think the best place to start is with our new number 9, who we've spoken about in the last few weeks, has received a little bit of criticism for his early displays in an Arsenal shirt. But there were some encouraging signs in his performance for Sweden. I know they lost to Kosovo, which was quite a poor result for them. But something that we have spoken about with Gyökeres is his lack of touches and his lack of involvement in Arsenal play. I think it's been going around. He's had like 4 or 5 completed passes in each of his 3 first appearances for Arsenal. 47 touches for Sweden against Slovenia in his first game. Some great link-up play. That's encouraging for me. What did you make of Gyökeres against Slovenia, and just how sort of important it is that he's actually getting involved in football matches rather than being very peripheral?
I think it was obviously a positive. I think obviously the complaint that we've had with him is more of the people around him and not giving him service. And I think with his performances for Sweden, I mean, it wasn't really the most exciting results for them. It was a pretty poor break, but he obviously links up better because he spent more time with them. And it just goes to show, I mean, I think he created 2 chances in their defeat. He's there to sort of, drop back, be the playmaker almost sometimes. But it just comes with time. And he's had loads of time to gel with his national team and with Arsenal. I think it was positive. I think Arteta might have watched him and thought, there's so much, we can work on with him. But it's just that adaptation period. I think we're just going to be waiting for a little bit longer.
And I do kind of think he's been a little bit misprofiled in that people kind of see him as Erling Haaland. And they kind of see him as like this guy who just waits for the ball to enter the box and he just tucks it home and barely gets involved in anything else. But he wasn't like that at either Coventry or Sporting. He was quite involved in build-up and running the channels and getting involved. And we haven't seen that at Arsenal yet, but he showed it in these Sweden games that he can do that. So hopefully, as you said there, we start to play to him more and we start to see him sort of accustomed to his teammates and they start to gel and link up better than they have done so far. Obviously, Havertz and Eze as well was subject to a little bit of criticism from his own manager, Thomas Tuchel, after the Andorra game, was completely left on the bench against Serbia. Deployed as a sort of right 10 against Andorra, which I watched quite a lot of that game, and it was basically played at a walking pace. I think both, all the England players were kind of like, we've got a grueling 60-game season ahead of us. We don't really want to get injured in this random game against, mostly plumbers from Andorra. So yeah, it's a difficult game to judge him on, but he was very consistent in his passing, completed 91% of his passes, did miss some big chances, few where he didn't quite take them with the conviction we're used to seeing him take chances with for Palace. Yeah. Do you think, are you concerned at all about maybe that, sort of slightly underwhelming performance against Andorra, or do you just see it as like, okay, it doesn't really mean much?
The latter, I think. I mean, it was a shame for him. I was gutted for him because Andorra were just really well set up in midfield. I don't know if they were just good at, they anticipated that England weren't really going to do anything intricate. I think sometimes you might want Eze to like find space. I mean, it was crowded in there, but he could find some space. I just felt gutted that, then the Serbia game was completely different. And, you put money on the fact that he would have thrived in that game. So it was just luck of the draw, I think. And, you hope that it doesn't impact how Tuchel feels about him in the future. That'd be really harsh. But you've got to think that way. We've got Bellingham still to come back and Palmer, and you know, there's going to be way more competition for those number 10 spots. So I don't think he's blown his chance, but it is, it's fine margins at international level when England have got such a good squad. For Arsenal, I think if anything, it will be a positive because he'll just want to come back and prove himself. Going to be hungrier than ever, whether he plays in that number 10 spot, which I don't think he will after what Odegaard did on international duty. But going out to the left, there's no problems with him. He's going to be hungry. He's going to want to come and impress. So just one of those things, I think, just one of those breaks.
Yeah, I didn't love the Tuchel comments, I've got to admit. Like, is it really necessary? But he kind of did it with Madueke as well. He said he falls asleep defensively, which was a bit harsh considering how good Madueke was in the two matches. Yeah, let's move on to the Arsenal game coming up this weekend, which is much more interesting for us Arsenal fans. And it is Nottingham Forest, and there's obviously a huge narrative coming into this with Ange Postecoglou succeeding Nuno Espirito Santo, who was sacked by Forest. Obviously fell out with Edu, our previous sporting director. Quite funny, to be honest, to watch from the outside. But yeah, there's going to be a lot of talk about that and sort of how Forest adapts with their new manager. The supercomputer is predicting a 3-1 win, which I think feels quite reasonable. And yeah, obviously lost to Liverpool prior to the international break. Very important we return to winning ways, particularly with City and Newcastle coming up in our next two. What do you make of the Forest situation? And how excited are you to expose Ange's high line?
The Forest situation is just a mess, and I think Ange's defensive tactics are also a mess. So hopefully we exploit them. I hope that doesn't come back to bite me. But I think the Forest game, we've just got to prove it to ourselves rather than looking at what's going on there, because it is a mess. But you also don't want to get caught up in the fact that let's exploit the mess rather than let's just be better than them on the pitch. And I think the way that we're going to be better than them is just upping the intensity. Like at Liverpool, it was such a hard game to sort of like analyse as a fan because, well, we were gutted. It was a defeat. So many more things, like loads of things were good. Loads of things were also like, we could definitely have improved that. And I think the intensity and our build-up play, we're not creating enough chances from open play. It's going to be a midfield battle. We saw what Anderson did over the international break. And that's where the game could be won and lost. And then with Ange, I guess, I think Gyökeres will be loving it. The idea of playing against that high line, whether he's going to implement it. I mean, I think he'd be a fool to do it so early, but then we look, how when Spurs lost to Chelsea when they were down to like 9 men or something, he was still holding that high line, which was hilarious. So I wouldn't put it past him to go and just do that in his first game at the Emirates, but we'll see. But it's certainly added a bit more fire into the game. It's almost feels like it's going into a North London derby because like you don't hate Ange, but he was Spurs manager, wasn't he? So
Exactly. And yeah, I can't wait for the reception he's going to get in the Emirates. Yeah, I think they've had a bit of a mixed start. They were surprisingly like decent in their first couple of games. Got a good point away at Palace. Beat Brentford quite comfortably, and that was just kind of Nuno continuing what he was doing previously. And then like the fallout happened, and things just unravelled in that final week before the international break, and terrible loss at home to a very bad West Ham team. And then obviously they did quite a lot on deadline day, and then Nuno's forced out, Ange comes in, and it's kind of the perfect time to play them because they either try and implement Ange ball from the off, and it's just not going to be good because they've been completely used to a completely different style of play, sitting quite deep generally and looking to counter with the likes of, last season was Langer and Hudson-Odoi feeding Wood. But now it's how are they going to play on the halfway line with Milenkovic and Murillo. And if he does try and do that from the offset, then yeah, as you said there, Gyökeres could have a field day. It could be very easy for us because they're not going to be good at it yet, particularly with that personnel, but also it's the first time they've done it. We've got a very good head-to-head record with them. I think we've won every game since they've been promoted. I think I remember 5-0 Reece Nelson brace. And then a 2-1 Bukayo Saka screamer And then last season, obviously 3-0 win. Bukayo Saka scored a beautiful goal. We do have some key absentees. Saka is probably going to miss this game again. Havertz is still out. Jesus is obviously still out. Saliba is most likely out. Norgard's a doubt still. White, we think, will be back. How would you sort of set up with these injuries in mind in those sort of key positions, centre back, right wing, etc.?
I think Mosquera's earned the right to keep his place alongside Gabriel. I think he did really well at Anfield, and that's the biggest test you're going to get, especially as a 21-year-old, like your first real minutes in the Premier League, 4 minutes into that game. And, it was just usual sort of, everything was just tidy. So he can't really lose this spot. I think it would be completely unfair if he did. So I expect him to start there. I keep Calafiori in as well on the left. And then right, it's got to be Madueke after what we've been seeing. And on the left, I mean, Martinelli's got to go. It's just, I mean, we saw what he did at Liverpool, and it wasn't a lot. And what he did do, it was sore. So, I'd like to see Eze come in, but I just don't know. I think we've got the options, but with Arteta, I don't know. Is Mourinho going to come in and score another hat trick? That would be brilliant. But yeah, just keep it simple. I'd just make those tweaks. Madueke's got no reason not to start on the right. And I think he'll be really hungry to get his first goal because he was just so unplayable at times for England, and we've been missing that intensity on the wide areas. So, and again, Eze, same sort of situation, is going to be desperate to come in and make an impact. So I think, yeah, Eze on the left, Madueke on the right, and then Gyökeres through the middle.
I think I definitely agree with that, and with Mosquera as well. Surely it'll be. I mean, he earned the right with his performance at Anfield. Forest obviously have some of their own threats. Chris Wood last season, ridiculous XG over performance, but a lot of goals, so he's always a threat. The pace from Hudson-Odoi and the counter attack, Gibbs White feeding him. They've got Dan and Doy in there now as well, replacing Alanga. We might see Amari Hutchinson return to the Emirates. Was getting booed last season when I saw him play for us against Ipswich. James McAtee as well. So they've got some good attacking players, but we'll see how they sort of gel together in their first match under a new manager and in a new system. Anyone particularly you're sort of wary of from Forest?
I mean, Chris Wood always, he's just gets himself into the right places, and he's a brilliant finisher. He's also strong and good at the air. So my only worry with Mosquera is, I mean, he's played in La Liga against some of the best, so he's well in his right to be there. But it's going to be a test for sure. It's a different test to the Liverpool one. They didn't have that level of physicality up front, so keeping Wood quiet isn't going to be easy. But I'm sure Gabriel would love to go up against him. And the pace they've got is crazy. Like you see on both wings, it's they can just fly forward in a matter of seconds. So that also worries me about Calafiori because we know what he's like. He'll be in the box at the other end, and then they're darting forward. I really don't want to see that happen, but it's going through my head right now. So that is a bit worrying. But I think man for man, we've got the better team, but we don't. Premier League is so unpredictable. What anything can literally happen.
Yeah, with Calafiori on that side, it's always a bit of a worry, but particularly when they have like the likes of Ndoye and Hudson-Odoi, whoever's on that side. Yeah, hopefully Gyökeres can carry the confidence he would have got from a decent performance against Slovenia forward into this game. Hopefully we see Eze on that left, and hopefully he takes more of his chances in this game. I do think some of his chances against Andorra were coming from the right, and he's much more used to opening sort of his foot out and curling it with his right from the left-hand side. So maybe there's something in that in terms of the types of chances he's getting. But yeah, player to watch in this game, Gyökeres, Eze, anyone else?
I've got to say Madueke again. And probably Rice as well. He had a really good international break, and he'll want to improve a little bit on the Liverpool performance. Him and Supermendi weren't really connecting as we might have hoped. So it'd be nice to see them gel a bit better in a game that is going to be so much sort of congestion in the midfield. So yeah, everyone really.
Agreed. Prediction?
God, I'm stuck between a 1-0 win and sort of like are we going to concede? It's really difficult. I like to say sort of a 3-1 or a 1-0, one of those. I want to win. So
I think we're going to absolutely thrash them. I do say this most weeks, but I just think we're going to destroy Ange's high line. And I think it's going to be all over the place. I'm going 5-0. Repeat what we did a few years ago against them. Yeah, leave us your prediction down below. Scoreline, key impact player, anything else you want to comment. And yeah, thanks for joining. Come on, you Gunners.